All right, is this beef that's happening right now in the rap game actually going to be beneficial for the game as a whole? And as fans, are we going to be benefiting from this beef and getting good music out of it? All right, we all know what happened with Kendrick on Like This, right? He dissed J. Cole, he dissed Drake, and he went for their throats, right? He specifically said, I'm not a part of the big three. I don't want any piece of it. All right, let's rewind the clocks a little bit and let's go over a little bit of history and see, like, okay, where has rap beef taken us in the past and what is different about this one to where this one might actually have some good things come out of it. In the past, Kendrick has famously had the diss on the track Control, where he called out a bunch of big artists, and specifically, he called out Drake. And on this track, now looking back, 9 years later, a lot of fans feel like this track didn't actually diss a lot of artists for, like, trying to start any beef, but say, like, oh, I don't want any of that bullshit, like, just calling them fake or whatever, but it didn't really have much substance to it, is what a lot of people are saying, even though there were insane bars in there, right? And Drake said this in an interview later. He said, like, listen, Kendrick and I are cool. I don't get what he meant by that diss.
Control, the record, people still banging it, man. Where is Drake at with Control?
I'm probably like as done as like the rest of the world is with that record. Like I think it came and it went, you know what I mean? And not to discredit it, like it was a good moment, but at the end of the day, it's just like, it was like one of those sort of like fleeting like Twitter frenzies that like, it was cool for what it was, and I'm just into making like, my thing is like, I like lasting power, that's my thing. I want you to still be listening to this album, in the summer or, next year, where I want this to stay in your car, stay on your mind. It's like not even about the music, you know what I mean? It wasn't even about like the content of it. It just seemed to be about like, all the all the talking at the time, and now everybody's like over it, nobody plays it. It's just like whatever.
And you and Kendrick are good as far as like the albums and doing records with each other. Did that kind of, when you heard your name, did you feel like, man, like that was kind of disrespectful? Or did you feel like, our names were just kind of thrown in there and it was?
I feel like he made a decision, you know what I'm saying? It was a decision to make, he was like, man, I'm either gonna go for this moment because I know it's gonna be a big moment, or I'm gonna like take heed to the fact that I have real relationships and I'm gonna like not do that. Cause like, I'll be real, like I thought of doing that before, I thought like, man, it'd be crazy if I just went off on everybody, but it's just kind of like, where does it really get me? Then what? Then every time I rap, people are gonna expect me to be confrontational. When I'm not, then it's not entertaining, you know what I mean? It's like, it kind of puts you in a box a bit, so I don't know if I necessarily respect it. We all make decisions. I'm sure he'll be good. He's talented as, you know what I'm saying? He's gonna have another album and another opportunity to take the world by storm, so he'll be alright, you know what I'm saying? Even if it doesn't feature, any of the names that you mentioned.
This up and elevated too much?
No, I feel like that's it. It's like, he's a new guy to love, and of course, I mean, rightfully so. He's super talented, but he's like, he is the underdog that's extremely hungry, you know what I'm saying? And he's doing his thing really well. And that verse he's giving people like moments, like that verse was a moment to talk about. Are you listening to it now at this point in time? Okay. And then it was real cool for like, a couple weeks. But like, if I ask you, for example, like, how does that verse start? No, and like, now mind you, it'll go on in Complex and Rap Radar, give it like verse of the millennium and all that shit or whatever. But like, I'm just saying, it's like, I remember like somebody like asking me, or maybe it was you that was like, is Kendrick Lamar your biggest competition like in this generation or whatever? And I think that Kendrick has like the utmost potential, man. Like, I see Kendrick tomorrow, I'm adapt him. I didn't feel a way about that verse. I get it. I get the moment. Like, he's a good guy. And like, I know that verse had no malice behind it because I saw him 5 days later at the VMAs and it was all love. So it's like, he didn't come on there on some wild, like, I'm in New York, fuck everybody, don't look at me. Like, I'm a kid. So it was one of those things. It's like, I almost wish he had come in there on that shit because I kind of lost like a little respect for the sentiment of the verse. If it's really fuck everybody, then it needs to be fuck everybody. It just can't be halfway for the sake of the people. You know what I'm saying? Like, for real, that's just how I feel. I still like, when it comes to competition, I'm more worried about consistency. I'm more worried about bodies of work. I'm basically talking about like, there's one guy who's up every night thinking about how to get better and how to do things bigger. And that's Kanye West. He's like, he's always gonna be the guy that's trying to outthink and outdo, everybody. So
the next big beef we had was between Drake and Pusha T. All right, this obviously started with Infrared, where Kanye produced that track and Pusha T called out Drake, and then Drake responded with Duppy Freestyle, right? Drake took the bait there, which is what Kendrick is doing right now with Like This, right? He's setting out the bait, saying, fuck y'all, I'm in this shit. I don't want anything to do with y'all. I'm better. He's setting out the bait for Drake. Drake has already been taking it in the captions on IG. His dad responded to it. I mean, the OVO goons are posting on their stories. Drake is definitely taking the bait. Anyway, back to the Infrared Pusha T thing, is Drake took the bait there, okay? So he made the Duppy Freestyle track, which had some okay bars that called out Kanye and Pusha T, saying that like Pusha T doesn't actually sell drugs or whatever, and he just lies in his rap. And also calling out Kanye, saying that like Father had to stretch his hands, right? Saying that like he helped Kanye make a lot of T-Lop. So like what's he doing dissing him, right? Or producing a diss against him with Pusha T, right? And then also saying I can never have Virgil in my circle and hold him back, right? Saying that Kanye gets like nervous of Virgil outshining him, right? So he had some okay disses there, but then, I mean, the bait was taken and Pusha T was locked and loaded. Only 4 days later, he responded with the story of adding on the best diss track of all time, right? He exposes Drake for having a kid and not being there for him, and single-handedly actually caused change and made Drake raise his kid. And then from there on out, Drake dropped subliminal after subliminal, right? With Kiki, do you love me? Right? Obviously referring to like Kim Kardashian. And then on Sicko Mode, like on the block, took a right? Saying that he went to Kanye's house to pipe down Kim, right? And obviously this pissed off Kanye. Kanye made the video of like him under the train tracks saying like, listen, if I made a track and with a girl with a similar name, you would take offense to it. You know what you're doing.
With Drake, yeah, I told you that if I wasn't in a medicated state, I might have had the thoughts to, hold on, this train going by. Now, if I wasn't in a medicated state, I might have thought and had the wherewithal to say, hey, Pusha, don't diss Drake on my beat. And I spoke about that and took accountability for that. Now, what I'm looking for my spirit to take accountability is the fact that it's people making rumors or thinking that you fuck my wife and you're not saying nothing and you carrying it like that, that don't sit well with my spirit. You know, if I had a girlfriend from Chicago, her name was Renita, and then you was married to Rihanna, I wouldn't make no song called Riri. So when you're like, oh, I don't know where it come from, you too smart for that, bro. You know where that come from. Don't make no record with nothing that could be confused. Now, I told you, I didn't tell Pusha no information about your baby mama, nothing like that. That ain't come from me.
Ye always talks about Drake knows exactly what he's doing. He's playing chess with all these bars, but he never actually like goes for the throat. So that way when someone tries to press him on it, he can say, oh no, that wasn't about that. When it damn well was about that. And he knows exactly what he's doing, but he can play all innocent because they're so subliminal.
She said Virgil took the watch from Drake because Virgil actually designed a paddock.
Oh, well, Virgil took the watch, sent the watch to Drake and all that type of stuff. Because he know that, like, you know, that would hurt my feelings. I work with Balenciaga because I knew it would hurt Drake's feelings. So we're operating, like I said, it's 4D chess.
You guys are playing crazy games, bro.
Yeah, you got what I'm saying? This is like real war.
You saw the same thing happen with What Would Pluto Do, right? Back on For All the Dogs, that was actually a diss track against Future, right? And we didn't know that at the time, but Drake did. Drake does these little things where he knows how to piss off individual people even when the masses have no clue at all what it means. Or if you don't know what the What Would Pluto Do thing is Future and Drake were actually kind of beefing over a girl. And what would Pluto do? Drake says on that song, and Pluto is obviously reference to Future. If you don't know, it's like his nickname. He says, what would Pluto do? He'd fuck that girl, so I did it, right? And that's in reference to the girl they're beefing over. So he's saying like, yeah, I fucked your bitch, right? So none of us knew at that time that was actually saying that. We just thought like, oh, you know, Future gets woman. Drake saying he gets woman like Future. Whatever, cool. He's shutting him out. No. Had nothing to do with that. Now, obviously, we know Future's beef with Drake, and that's actually what it meant. Okay, so back to the Ye and Drake issue. That went on for years of subliminals and all this. And Travis Scott, who's like in between, you know, he collabs a lot with Drake, he collabs a lot with Ye, and he tried to heal the relationship in early 2020. He took him out. He said, hey, let's go to dinner. Let's hash this out. And Drake did not go any of the times. Ye and Travis both showed up to the dinners like 2 times, and Drake showed up both times. And then Drake was like, yeah, I'll go to a third dinner. And they're like, no, you're just going to stand us up again. And Ye actually wanted to hash things out and heal things over. And Drake was not having any of it, just shut him up. In 2021, they eventually had the Donda and CLB beef, right? Which is actually one of the best times in hip hop, which we'll get back to later. All right, but that's eventually when it kind of bubbled over, right? Further on from that, then another beef we had was between Ye and Kid Cudi, and that happened in 2021. This was one beef that I will say did not really have like a positive outcome, right? So this was over Pete Davidson. You know, Ye was just saying like how he hated Pete Davidson a lot because Kim was dating him, and he didn't like how he was treating the kids. Respectfully so. I mean, Pete Davidson was actually just baiting the hell out of him, so texting him all this weird ass shit about like getting the kids' names on his neck and tattoos. It was weird. It was bad. So Ye definitely had reason to go for him. But Kid Cudi took Pete Davidson's side, and they just didn't collab at all, and that was that. So that was actually just like a bad beef that had no positive outcome. The difference in this time between like, oh, it's over a girl, or it's over something like the Pete Davidson issue, where it's like something of like some petty, like little subliminal. The difference between this Kendrick and J. Cole and Drake beef that's happening right now is he is strictly calling him out on the quality of the music. And I think that's the biggest thing to take away from this entire beef, is a lot of people could say like, oh, people in the past have been petty over little things, and all that happens is stop collaborating, and us as fans, we want them to collaborate, and everyone be happy, and we can get good music. Well, I'm here to tell you, if you haven't noticed over the past 5 years, a lot of music has not really actually been that competitive, right? So what Kendrick is doing is he's saying like, listen, you guys say, oh, I'm in the big three. J. Cole specifically said that, oh, it's just me, K-Dot, and Drake. Yeah, we're the big three. And Kendrick's saying, no, I have a different standard in my music. Don't put me on your level, right? Sean C said this best. He said, listen, it's like the ugly kid saying like, yeah, I'm just like you. It's like, no, you're not. Don't say like, oh yeah, we're twins when you're the ugly kid and I'm just normal, or I think I'm better than you. Don't group me in with you, right? And that's exactly what Kendrick's doing. So it's strictly a thing of quality. Like he's saying like, especially the Prince outlived Mike Jack, which is in a reference to saying like, listen, Prince had way more like actual substantial music, right? He was just trying to break records like Drake is comparing himself to Michael Jackson with, right? He's saying, oh, I'm breaking all these records, I'm doing great. And oh yeah, Kendrick on the same song, I mean, J. Cole said it, but on the same song saying like, oh yeah, and Kendrick's up there with us too, when Drake is saying like his motivation is breaking all these records. That is not what Kendrick stands for. So he's saying, fuck that, I don't want any part of that, right? Make better music and then put yourself up with me. So that is what makes me happy about this, is it's not over any petty shit. It's strictly about the music and trying to say, I make better music than you, right? And what this brings me back to is a time in like 2016, 2017 when we had these SoundCloud rappers coming up, right? And not many of them were specifically beefing with each other. I mean, you had X and Drake kind of beefing. You had a bunch of artists kind of on smaller beef levels that have really fizzled out since then, right? But, I mean, you have, like, Uzi and Rich the Kid, stuff like that. But I think there was a lot of just subtle competitiveness in that time because so many artists were coming up. And all of them were pumping out quantity and quality. If you look back, I mean, that's some of the best hip-hop years we had, right? Between 2016 2018, around then, we had so many artists just trying to prove themselves and differentiate themselves from everyone else in the pack. And I think that this is what could be brought back with Kendrick calling out J. Cole. So originally, this beef, it just seemed like, oh, it was Metro just telling Kendrick to hop on this because Metro doesn't like Drake, and that's for a whole list of other reasons, right? Same with Future. That's more personal shit, right? But with Kendrick actually saying, like, no, this is about the music, and I make better music than you, right? Than J. Cole and Drake. This actually brings out a lot of competition, and it doesn't have to be like the Civil War side. I know that's the thumbnail of this video, the Civil War where it's side versus side and who's going to compete with who, right? Because that creates a lot of sides, and that can hurt a lot of collaborations that we do want to see as fans, right? I think where this actually does take its good intention is what Ye posted last night on his story, right? He said, I washed Kendrick, I washed Drake, right? I made all these great albums, I'm the GOAT. And listen, at first reading that, it's like, oh, bro, like, I would have loved to see Ye and Kendrick make another No More Parties in LA. Why does he have to say he washed Kendrick? But then, if you actually take a step back and think about what this really means, is Ye saying there are no sides. This isn't Metro versus Drake. This isn't a Future versus J. Cole and Kendrick versus J. Cole. This isn't a sides. This is a strictly everyone wants to prove themselves, right? And you saw this in Sheck West saying like, oh, yo, Ye, like, you stole my Mo Bamba flow on Carnival, right? And then Ye even acknowledged that and posted it on his story, kind of just, like, mocking him, saying, like, fuck it, whatever. Like, I did it, so what? The song went #1, right? And I think that Ye not picking a side here, even though he has a lot of reasons not like Drake, and doesn't really have any reasons not like Kendrick, but he's still saying he's washing him, is saying, like, listen, he's seeing what this beef is at its core, and it's strictly that competitiveness is what I'm talking about, right? So I think that this brings me back to a time like I was saying with Donda and CLB, right? Drake and Kanye were beefing at that time, and at the time, bro, you saw so many TikToks. I mean, like, every NFL team had, like, the interview with the players saying, like, yo, CLB or Donda, right? Everyone was comparing these albums, and, I mean, I think Donda was better, whatever. But, and for whatever the albums were, it made it a fun time to be a fan of either, no matter what side you were on. I had friends that were really, really big Drake fans, and just debating which album was better, even though we were both incredibly biased on, I really like Donda, and I mean, CLB has some great tracks too, right? It's not the worst album ever, but like, having that conversation made rap fun, right? I think that's what people want to bring back, and I think that's what this beef can do in specific, right? So at the end of the day, to wrap things up, I think that this definitely makes rap super interesting. I think that the one drawback is that it might hurt the grand scheme of collabs, right? So we might not have a lot more like Donda type albums where, you know, Kanye had like 20 features on that album, right? Same with CLB, had a lot of features, right? I love seeing these like a lot of features on tracks, and seeing a lot of artists collaborate with each other is fun. I think that might be scaled back a little bit because artists don't want to be picking a side, right? They don't want to say like, oh, these two artists are really competitive with each other, and I'm going to be featured on this person's track. That means the other person, I don't stand with you no more, right? I think that might get hurt a little bit because rappers want to stay a little more neutral. But what this could do is bring back some good, like, duos, right? Because the artists that are already on each other's side might want to be incredibly more competitive with another duo. Think of, like, Drake and J. Cole, right? They're obviously on the same side. They're on tour right now. They were on First Person Shooter where all this started, right? So they're going to stick by each other's side. And I don't mind, as a fan of rap, to hear some insanely good tracks out of them, right? Because they're going to want to prove themselves against Future and Kendrick, right? All these duos could come together and kind of like it might be way more tight collaborations is what I'm saying, rather than an album with 30 features on it and you get a couple verses from each person, or even just ad libs. Or I think it'll be way more competitive, tight, strict duos could come to each other, and even solo albums as well. I think it'll be way more like, this is about me, this is why I'm proving myself. And maybe if I have a great duo with me, think J. Cole and Drake, or Kanye and Kid Cudi, could come together and say, this is why we're the best, because they're already really tight. They don't really have that much to compete with each other. But between other artists where they're not as tight, they're going to want to prove themselves against, right? So I think that could be a good, interesting angle at which we do receive some good music out of all these artists from. So, end of the day, I'm happy this beef is happening. It makes shit super interesting, and I think that we will definitely get some really, really good music out of this. I hope that artists take the bait, honestly, and use this to make good music. That's it. I think that's what we get. So, if you enjoyed this discussion, my perspective on this, let me know in the comments down below. If you have any other, like, well, it could be bad in this sense, I don't know about that, let me know, all right? And I'll read them, I'll reply to them, all right? And if you like all this content, make sure to check out all my other rap reactions and my reviews, all my analysis on that. And I'll see you in the next video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Peace.